Today's brown bag training is on setting up a new contract. So we're going to talk about the steps that are needed to set up the new contract in RMS. And as just a disclaimer, it is not meant to convey guidance on best practices, business processes, policies, or regulations that govern contract administration or quality assurance actions. Please check with your district for any deviations from this presentation. Okay, so after obviously logging into RMS and selecting your district, make sure you have the display contracts button selected, which you see in the bottom right-hand corner. If you have the display projects button selected, then the add, edit, and archive buttons will not be available to you. So make sure that your screen is set up to show just contracts. Okay, so to start the process of creating a new contract, you're going to click on the Add button. And at this point, it's going to bring you to the Add RMS Contract screen, and you're going to enter the title for the new contract, and you're going to change or enter in the office to the appropriate office that will be administering the contract. So once that information is entered, you're going to select the OK button, and this will bring you back to the contract menu screen. So one important note is to make sure that you have the correct office, and make sure that you only select the copy data from another contract box if you're matching a pre-existing exact contract. We recommend that you not check this box, but if you happen to be copying from an exact contract, you could do that. Okay, so next up, from the contract menu screen, you're going to click on the contract description button. And this is where you're going to enter in the following mandatory fields. So you have the fiscal year, the contract short title, the contract number, the delivery order number, and the contract long title. So when we say matching, we really do mean matching. So make sure that the contract number, delivery order number, that they match exactly with CEFMS. So if it has dashes, spaces, or other characters, please make sure that you include that when you enter in that information. Otherwise, it will not match up with CEFMS. Okay, next, still on the contract description screen, there are some additional fields that have to be entered, and that would be the contract description, the primary fund type, the contracting method, contracting location, and the customer. So once all of this information is entered, you're going to click on the back arrow to save your information. Okay, the next step, once you're back at the contract menu screen, is to click on the contract setup button. Okay, so on the administration funding tab, it is highly recommended that you keep the default boxes that you see here on the screen. And then you're going to select the CEFMS database name that the contract is funded by. So again, the reminder here is that you should only change the default entries based on your specific office policy. So just to talk about what these different options are and what they mean if you check or uncheck those boxes. So for the use CEFMS for downloading finances and uploading, if you're not going to use CEFMS, then obviously you're going to uncheck that box. For the CEFMS database name, make sure that the database name matches the CEFMS database name where you'll be pulling your financial data from. The next is, will this contract be linked to P2? If yes, then obviously you'll keep that box checked. Use P2 data prior to award. RMS can use P2 data for pre-award milestones. The use only one phase box, if you do check on that box, RMS will treat a multi-phased P2 project as one phase. The allow government to enter contractor data is not recommended. It's important that the contractor enter their data. The next few fields, the track contractor's insurance, the track contractor's payrolls in RMS, the track labor interviews, requires a DD 1354 transfer document. All these fields are used for making custom reporting. So do not alter any of those check boxes, except for possibly if you're going to change the category code for what you see in the far right column. So just make sure that the CAT code matches. If you do not see the appropriate drop-down category that you're looking for, then you should click on the Enable Fiscal Year 22 Lookups for DD 1354. The send docs to PCF. There is an option to not upload to PCF. It's used in very rare cases, and you should consult your district point of contact for that. And lastly, the RMS 2.38 access, that has been sunset. So in future releases of RMS, these options will be removed. Okay, next you're gonna, the default funding method for RMS is track funding at funding account level, pre-plan obligations for payment on all CLINs. Again, this is the default option. If you do select track funding at a project level, compute obligation amounts for payment based on available funds, RMS will treat separate funding as one and will provide and will prorate payments based on the amounts of funds available. If you select track funding at project level, manually enter obligation amounts for payment, users will be required to enter obligation amounts manually for each payment. So again, it's strongly recommended that you do not use the project level funding unless your district requires it. Okay, so if you happen to do change to the project funding, you will get this warning message in RMS that if you continue, the funding method for the contract will be changed. Any existing obligation funding of CLINs will be lost. You will have only one CDW for this contract, and you will not be required to balance CLINs against obligations. So again, we're strongly recommending that you do not change the funding method. Okay, next you're going to select the Payment Modifications tab. You're going to enter in the ACO modifications information and the CO modifications information. You're going to check the progress payments, allow additional earnings not included in activity earnings checkbox in order to allow the contractor to bill for stored materials and performance and payment bond. This only needs to be checked if the contractor is not going to be using a pay activity for these items. You're going to check the Include All Activities on Prompt Payment Document button to see all the activities for the contract on every invoice, regardless of what is billed. Okay, and one important note, the obligations for payment will be populated once the CEFMS finances have been downloaded. Okay, once the payment modification tab is completed, you're going to select the Quality Assurance tab, and you're going to enter in the following fields: the project engineer, the on-site core, the number of QA shifts, the chief QA rep, the time extensions due to unusually severe weather. And it's important to note that the QA report type only needs to be changed if it's different from the default. And the alternate QA shift 1 only needs to be populated if there's going to be a designated alternate QA. Okay, next we're going to go to the Submittals Schedules tab. You're going to enter the review periods for the appropriate type of submittal types and the default number of copies that the contract is required to submit. When you enter in the default government reviewer, entering in the default government reviewer will populate the submittal register automatically with the individual's name and will default the transmittals to their office address. Check that the address transmittal 4025 packages to. Make sure that that field is set to the office address that should appear on the ENG 4025. If the SDEF is being used, you're going to click on the box below that says requires the contractor to use actual start-finish dates from the QC reports on the NES to ensure that the activity start and finish dates match in the dailies to the schedule. Next, you're going to click on the Select a Specification button, and you're going to select a weather specification. Now, if your contract requires dredging, you're going to click on the Dredging tab, and you're going to click on the Enable Dredging by clicking on the Track Dredging Information in RMS for the contract and fill the dredging contract information according to office policy. You're going to enter all the applicable information related to the dredging work. Remember to check the contractor submits standard QC report box if a daily log is required in addition to the dredging report. When you're finished entering in your information, you'll click on the back button. You'll be returned to the contract menu screen, and this is where you're going to select the Prime Contractor button. You're going to select the RMS 3 Prime Contractor, and then you're going to click on the Copy DUNS and Contractor Information button, and RMS will enter the contractor full name and the home office address. You're going to select the Send Mail To dropdown, and you're going to select the address that the contractor wants to receive mail at. There are only two options to choose from, and that's either the contractor home office or the contractor site office. Note, if the prime contractor or DUNS number cannot be found under the lookup screens, contact either your office administrator or your system administrator to add these to the lookup. Okay, the payee office will be available once CEFMS Finances is downloaded, and the other fields will be populated by the contractor. Potentially, multiple payee offices may exist, so make sure to confirm the payee office. Contractor staff can be added, edited, or deleted on the Contractor Staff tab. It's important that you know that USACE must add one administrator so that all other users can be added by the contractor. Once the prime contractor information is entered, the next step is to select on the Schedules button. From the Schedules menu, you're going to click on the Milestone Schedule button. The next step is to enter the contract award date. So you're going to select the contract award and either double click on it or click on the Edit button. Okay, click the calendar next to the actual date and select the date the contracting officer signed the DD 1155. Click on the back button. The contract award status will change to completed. Note, milestone fields availability is based on milestone settings under the district library menu. Once the contract award date is entered, the award duration is now available to be entered. So enter the number of days to either reach the contract required completion date or the number of days awarded by the contract. After entering the contract award duration, you're now going to select the NTP acknowledged milestone event. Under NTP acknowledged, if the NTP has not been acknowledged by the time the contract is being set up, select other milestone event, tie the NTP acknowledged to contract award, and enter in 10 days. This will set the schedule NTP to 10 days after contract award. Enter in the actual date once the NTP has been acknowledged by the contractor. Once the contract award actual and the NTP schedule date are entered, the Finances tab will be unlocked. If these date fields have not been populated in RMS, RMS will label the contract as a future contract, and not all CEFMS finances will be downloaded. So select the Finances tab from the contract menu, and this will take you to the point where you're going to select the Contract Finances option. Okay, in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to click on the CEFMS download to bring in the financial information from CEFMS. When you get the message, download from CEFMS complete, select the OK button, and at that point, RMS will refresh and the CEFMS financial tree will appear. You're going to go now to the Contract Funding tab, and you're going to double click on the funding account line to open up the CEFMS funding account. Enter in the program type and enter the award contract amount. And once you've done that, you will click on the back button to save your information. It's important to note that if the award contract amount does not match the amount of the award CLINs, the CLINs will not balance. From the Finances main screen, you're going to click on the Award CLINs option. And on the Award CLIN screen, you're going to click on the Add button. Okay, you can select Add New Priced Parent CLIN, which would contain just a number, or you can select the Add New Priced subCLIN, which would contain both a number and a letter. So once you have selected your option, click on the Next button. RMS will default to the next new priced parent CLIN number. So all you need to do is select the appropriate unit of measure and select the Finish button. Okay, you're going to add the description and the award amount. If CLIN pricing is complete, be sure to check the CLIN pricing complete box and then click on the funding button. Obviously, if your CLIN pricing is not complete, then don't click that box and just click on the funding button. Okay, next you're going to select the funding account to be used for the CLIN, and you click on the Next button at the bottom of your screen. Click on the obligation amount next to the correct funding source. Enter in the amount of the CLIN. If there is a variance, confirm that you entered the obligation in correctly. So again, if there is a variance, you'll see it at the bottom right corner of your page, of your screen.
And what does it mean, enter incorrectly?
If you entered in the wrong amount, so if I entered in 1,500,000 instead of 15 million, then obviously the variance is going to show up at the bottom of the screen. So double check that you have entered in the correct obligation amount. So RMS will check that the proposed subCLIN for funding is correct. If it looks right, click on the Finish button. Double check the CLIN information. If it's correct, select the back button to save your information. Okay, now we're going to talk about setting up a new subCLIN. So this time you're going to click on the Add New Priced subCLIN radio button. Like when adding a CLIN, the subCLIN number will auto-populate. So again, all you have to do is select the appropriate unit of measure and click on the Finish button. For each subCLIN that is added, you must enter in the parent CLIN description. Once all CLINs are entered per the bid schedule, the DD 1155, and CEFMS obligations, the next step is to add pay activities. So we're going to click on the back button. And this is where we're going to click on the pay activities option. Okay, from the activities tab, this screen shows all the activities entered in the contract, and it also shows any variance between contract and activity amounts. Okay, from the CLINs tab, this shows all the activities entered by CLIN, and it shows if any CLINs are not balanced. Okay, from the Contractors tab, this shows all the activities that have been entered by the contractor. Okay, from the Features tab, this shows all the activities entered by features of work. Okay, so from the Pay Activity screen, activities can be manually entered, and RMS can also automatically add an activity to balance CLINs. Okay, so if you want to manually add an activity, you're going to select the Manually Add Activity button, enter in the activity number, and then click on the OK button. Now, if your contract has dredging, enter in the appropriate data on the Before Dredging Survey tab. And then you're going to go to the After Dredging Survey tab and enter in that data there as well. Additional comments can be added for hazards and for other comment types on the comments screen. On the Pay Activity screen, you're going to select Add an Activity for each CLIN to automatically add activity. RMS will use the data from the CLINs for entry in the activities. And this is the last step that you would go through in setting up a contract. So here are some additional links that are available to you. Link to the RMS manual, as well as the link to the RMS Center YouTube video training page. And at this point, we'll open it up for questions.
Regarding contract administration, contract description, primary fund type, is there a guide available to determining the appropriate primary fund type and the corresponding fund type code? It seems like RMS's fund type codes doesn't correspond with similar financial codes in CEFMS 2. Boz or James, do we know the answer to those questions?
Yeah, I will get a reply out to that one in just a second.
Another question, do most districts not enter their submittal register from specs and tact files? From my understanding, that is rare. Now, my understanding of most districts may not be actual usage, but from what I have seen in my past, it's pretty rare. Boz, you probably have a much better, yeah, and Bob, you might have a much better idea on that one. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can't speak for most districts. I've seen districts use specs intact. I've seen districts manually enter the submittal registers for the contractor, and I've seen the contractor manually enter in submittal items. So it all basically depends on how the contract was awarded. If the contractor was given a specs intact file from a design build designer, or if it's design bid build, it all depends.
Go ahead and ask your question.
Oh, no, this is about the submittal register. For where we are, it's usually included in the contract. And therefore, we put it into RMS, contractor gets it, and then during the QA, QC mutual understanding meeting, they're supposed to agree. Because I think we've all seen submittal registers that have some nonsense in them. Or the items are vague, I mean, ew. So they agree to, these are important, these are necessary. This one, no, we handle it by letter or other means. So if it's in the contract, which for ours it's 99% always in there, that's what we use, and then we modify it. Because during the course of the contract, we might figure out, hey, we need some more. So it's kind of a living document. And that's how we do it here. You know, so.
Very cool. Thanks for that information. Yeah, it looks like there's a lot more people using specs intact than I realized. Very cool. Okay, so I've got a document on P2. James is going to try to address, James Moore, your question. So James McGuire will be typing out a response to that. But P2, before actual award, RMS has the ability to download the following data from P2: the task amount, design by, contract type, project scope of work, contract status, primary delay code, customer issues, USAC issues, and system milestone events. After award, RMS can download the following data from P2: project scope of work, customer issues, USAC issues, and fiscal completion. After actual award, P2 can download the following data from RMS: contract number, delivery order number, scope of work, contract amount, placement percentage, contract status code, primary delay code, phase title, customer issues, USAC issues, project description, and milestone events. And I'll try to put that in the chat, but I don't think it's going to fit. And how many districts use P2 and RMS interface? James, you might know the answer to that one a lot better than me.
I was going to say, overall, every district uses the P2 RMS interface. The question really becomes how many contracts are actually using the P2 RMS interface. That would depend by district.
This is Carrie. I think our questions and answer session would be better utilized on how to use what was conducted in the training. As far as what other districts do, I don't know that our guys are really, I mean, yeah, they're the ones who do the day-to-day maintenance and have done the development, but I think the questions in this session would be better utilized on how to do something, not necessarily what other districts are doing, because from what we have seen anyways at the PMO is that a lot of districts do things differently. So what you may do at your district is not necessarily how somebody else is going to do it. So if we could just tailor the questions a little bit more with reference to this training and how to type questions, if you don't mind, just to better utilize our time.
Can you talk about how P2 needs to be set up so that it communicates with RMS?
So P2, the way to link these projects is on that P2 linked button on the main screen. You can actually link and download the P2 project from P2. The first step, you need to make sure that you have a CEFMS org code in the office of one of your offices for the contract. And that will actually download all the P2 projects for that office, that P2 org code that will be available to link up. There are other things that you need to make sure that P2 has in order for RMS to see that P2 project. And that is, you need to make sure that the RMS-A codes are associated with your projects within P2. Another way that you can do that is to make sure that the contract number is associated with the WBS band within P2. That actually gets into quite a lot of detail. So there are many ways that this can actually fall through the cracks. So what we need to do is to probably have a particular training on linking P2 projects. And if you have a particular problem with a P2 project, we can do research and find out why a P2 project is not linking or is not available to RMS.
Well, and we want to make sure that we're focused. Sorry, this is Dallas from the PMO. That we want to make sure that we're focused on RMS specific, because how things are set up in P2, that would be more on the P2 side of the house than the RMS. While they are linked and connected, a lot of the information we want to try to keep for the training should be focused on the RMS side of things.
Just FYI, you don't have to enter in the parent description if you don't want to. It gives you the option to change it if you want.
Yeah, because I was just wondering, because I'm at Huntsville Center, so some of our contracts get awarded on the subCLIN level and not on the parent CLIN. That's
right.
I guess we're gonna call it that way. Because I know this came up a lot because I'm training PM specialists over here. You know, about the parent CLIN, and some of the project managers was wondering about that too. So it doesn't make any difference, right? So I don't have to get out the award and trying to figure out what the parent description is. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Last time I used that screen, it's just there to change it if you want to. James, correct me if I'm wrong. You can just leave that blank and continue on.
I mean, I always did
Correct.
so far, but I didn't know if it caused any issues at that point.
It shouldn't. No, you should be good.
All right. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Did we miss anyone's questions? I noticed there's a few hands up. Whenever I try to go to the participants page, Teams kind of.
For this P2 thing, I don't know if you covered it because I got kicked out of Teams and then I had to get back in. But on the admin page of RMS, there's that, it says P2 projects. As long as you have the project number, which is on the award and on the drawing, well, it used to be on the drawings in the olden days, but as long as you have that number and you can find it on the PRNC, you can find it in CEFMS. If you have the project ID, if the PMs did their part, and they usually do on their side, you put in you can find the project ID, put it in there, and you get a lot of info. Start downloading to RMS. So I don't know if you covered that or not. So I find it really easy to go to the admin page and go to P2 projects.
Right. James, you got any comment on that?
Can you be a little more specific as to what exactly you're looking for?
Oh, there was all talk about, getting the P2 data into RMS.
Right. So before contract award, if you have a P2 project linked, that data should automatically be brought into RMS, unless the contract setup is set not to use P2 data prior to award.
Well, a lot of times these things are not set up prior to award, or it's incomplete. And that's why usually when I'm informed of an award, I go in, I find the project number, and I do that. And it saves me a lot of time. I mean, it's awesome.
Sorry, I have a question on that, because I know I run into that a lot. When I go to add, sometimes my P2 projects don't show at all. I mean, and it's the newer projects or the older projects. And I got into P2 because I know we don't talk about Primavera here, but I got everything, make sure everything is right. Why is that some of the projects pull in, we can find them easily, and some of them, they're like somewhere in a ditch? Sorry.
Yes, so that again goes back to what we were talking about before, is that there are several things that need to be set up properly in order for RMS to see the P2 projects. If everything is set up in P2 properly, like Dallas says, that's really on the P2 side to make sure that everything is set up properly so that RMS can see it. On our side, the only thing that we really need to do is to make sure that the P2 org code, or CEFMS org code, it's called either way, that org code is set up in at least one of your offices within RMS, then the P2 project should download and be available to link up. Outside of that, then there's usually some other problem on the P2 side for why the P2 project is not appearing on our side.
So James, we basically just pull the info from P2 at that point. So more than likely there's something on the P2 side that's probably causing the problem then, right? Like either something doesn't match or maybe P2 just hasn't updated, maybe.
Yes, exactly. There's several things in P2. They have to copy a methodology in order that the RMS-A codes could be associated with the project, because if that is not done, we won't even see these projects. They set up a database for us that we download. So we download all the P2 projects that are available to us for those org codes that we mentioned. So there really isn't anything further on our side that we can do.
Right.
So it usually goes back to P2, yes.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make that distinction, I guess, is if it's not working, that you need to check with P2 to make sure that everything is matching correctly. It sounds like it would be an issue on the P2 side, not the RMS side. But it would cause an issue with it pulling in. Yeah. All right.
Right. That's normally the case.
All right. Real quick, James, since we're on the topic here, can you link P2 on a contract with multiple task orders? We mostly deal with dredging, which is one of the multiple task orders on a contract.
Yes, we should be able to link the multiple task orders with the P2 project to a contract. If you want to link a P2 project to multiple contracts, separate contracts, you need to make sure that they're in separate WBS bands, because once you link up a P2 project, it'll bring everything for that WBS band in with that link.
Interestingly enough, it's the same. It's along the same lines of P2. So, you know, if you're going to schedule a separate training, I'll wait. But I have had a project that, and I work in P2. I am a project scheduler, and I have been round and round with this one. The codes are in, everything's good to go on the P2 side, and it still does not appear in RMS. So I think I'll hone that question in to then what help desk can I approach to try to fix this, because it seems like it's falling in the cracks between RMS and P2, and if one side's not responsible, the other one is. But like, I would rather just work together, you know. I want to try to get to a point where I get it solved, not shift responsibility back and forth.
Yeah, why don't you put in a ticket with the RMS help desk, and we'll work with you on that one.
I just wanted to add, but I have been able to get a hold of the help desk, but I actually call them on the phone number, and until somebody answers and picks up the phone. Normally, they're the only ones who've been able to correct that, and that's what I just wanted to add, that they somehow go in there and they find the project and they tie it to P2, because no matter what we do, no matter what coding P2 has, it just doesn't want to appear on the project. But I did have one question, if they can clarify. Something that was said earlier. If you have multiple projects under one P2 contract, you said to separate the projects by WBSs, not by activities?
Correct. Yeah, in P2, they have to be on separate WBS bands.
Okay, so if you have multiple awards, what's the funding shown in that So we have to set it up where the activity for each contract, it's on its own WBS.
Yes.
So we would probably have a bunch of contracts listed as WBS. Okay.
Yes, that's the way it would be set up.
I usually don't have situations like that, but if I ever do, that information comes in handy.
So this is Carrie with the PMO. I'll just say, if you're having trouble, and I'll put this in the chat, if you're having trouble with your help desk tickets or anything along those lines of not getting responded to, please reach out to me or somebody else from the PMO. We're trying to keep folks from going directly to the contractor if at all possible, because we have to set priorities for what gets worked, what doesn't get worked. And if we see help desk tickets for for the same things over and over again, then we know it's a bigger issue than just with one person that we need to look into. And sometimes that requires other approval levels besides us, etc. So if you have a help desk ticket and you haven't been able to get a resolution to, send me the ticket number. If you don't have it, I know like the lady just mentioned, she had to call it in and said she get a call back. We can go in and look for your name if either way, we can reach out to you, or if you call it in and you get a ticket number and you want to send us a ticket number, we can go ahead and put that as a higher level priority. But I'm trying to stop folks from going directly to the contractors themselves because they're trying to work on what they already have on their plate in the queue. And if something comes up that, again, we see over and over again, then we know that that's a higher problem than just like somebody's computer is acting wonky. So again, this is Carrie Gates. I'm on the chat. On the SharePoint, I'm in the global, so feel free to send me your ticket numbers if you're having that problem. Now, I will say, if it's only been, a day, give it a little more time, or if it's only been an hour, but definitely, especially if you're having the same problem over and over again with, like you mentioned, trying to get a P2 project and RMS linked together, let's see what we can do to see if we can figure it out. Thanks.
Thank you, Carrie. So thank you for redirecting. I just wanted to make sure I repeated that to make sure everyone understood. You've redirected and said if they're having a problem, come to PMO, and PMO will help prioritize. PMO will help look into it. And you also have an opportunity from a PMO standpoint of seeing the most common areas where complaints are. In order to do that, you have to be, they have to be able to reach out to you. Thank you. Were there any additional questions?
There was a question in the chat. I don't know if it got responded to because it's higher up, and it might just be a good time to reiterate it anyways, where it's at. But somebody was asking for the link to the RMS videos on YouTube. And so maybe just a good point to reiterate where that is or how they can get to it. And then also this training is being recorded and it will also be uploaded as well. So I remember seeing that earlier. If somebody else wants to address it. Again, I don't know if it was done it looks like it may have been done in the YouTube, but I'm sorry, in the chat, but you might just want to reiterate it. So Paul or Benita, if y'all want to just tell folks how to get to where this video is going to be posted and about how long it'll be before it's posted.
Sure. So usually it takes us about 5 days to go in, make some edits, edit out some of the white noise and other things like the mute statements. We also want to make sure that the screen share, because some people are sharing their screens, doesn't get unintentionally added to the video as well, because sometimes team will focus on that. Anyway, we edit all that out. We put it up on the rms.usa.army.mil website. Usually we put a link there saying, hey, this is available. Otherwise, if you go to the YouTube channel, but it's I believe the title of the channel is RMS Support Center. There you go. That's the link to the RMS YouTube channel. So you go there. You can go to videos or you can go to playlists. Videos will show you the latest videos that are updated. Playlists will show the webinars as well as the training videos. And then we try to sort them out in government and contractor mode. Brown bags go in the webinars. Any other questions? I think we got to most of them. I don't see any other hands up unless my participants window is not loading like it was before. Really appreciate all the questions. And yes, loud and clear. Looks like you guys would like a training on the P2 stuff. There's a lot of questions there about that one. Yeah, definitely bookmark that link. We'll be uploading. We upload, I think, around 3 to 4 training videos a month at least. That's part of our contract, as well as if you go to playlists, that sorts them by training videos and webinars. And of course, something like this would be in the webinars playlist.
There was a comment in there about could we do a training on closeout? So we will look at that. I'm actually going to put our PMO inbox address in the chat so that if you have recommendations or things that you would like to see training on, you can send it there, because we do want to make sure that if y'all have specific questions on modules or things within RMS that we cover them in a training. So again, I will put that in the chat, and then if y'all have something specific that you would like to see, feel free to send it there. So thanks everybody. Paul, Benita, if y'all have anything else, are you good?
Awesome, thank you. Thanks everyone.